Good morning, children. Today we will begin a new lesson, A Horse and Two Goats, written by R.K. Narayan. Now, you must be remembering R.K. Narayan. If you have watched, children, please, I again suggest watch Malgudi Days, children. It is written by R.K. Narayan, and the protagonist is a small young boy like you people. He is Swaminathan. This story, A Horse and Two Goats, it's a short story written by R.K. Narayan again, and it has been set in one of the tiniest villages in India, that is Kritam. And R.K. Narayan was an Indian writer who is best remembered, children, for his stories set in the fictional South Indian town of Malgudi. So he had introduced this Malgudi, a small fictional South Indian town it was. Narayan's style is simple, easy, and unpretentious, and his stories explore with humor and compassion the everyday lives of ordinary people. Now, in this story, A Horse and Two Goats, it is an edited version. In it, Narayan describes what happens when an English speaking American meets an illiterate South Indian villager who knows only Tamil and has never stepped outside his village. The foreigner, with his English, is baffled by the incomprehensible and bizarre behavior of Muni, because Muni couldn't understand any word of that American, and American too never could understand anything whatever Muni was speaking. Muni is equally mystified by the American's strange words and antics. Whatever he is saying, whatever he is pointing at, he also equally he is mystified. He cannot understand. He is altogether confused. Using the simplest of settings, Narayan, children, has crafted a sensitive yet very amusing story, rich in situational comedy too. You will find humor all through the story if you understand properly, children. Then, this short story has used the simplest setting. Narayan has used the language barrier to craft situational comedy. So, language, we people are almost, we can't understand English. At that time, Indians, they half broken English they used to understand. Now, we'll begin the chapter, children. Of the 700,000 villages dotting the map of India, Kritam was probably the tiniest, indicated on the district survey map by a microscopic dot. So look at the first very sentence, how he has used all the possible words, vocabulary to tell about the village Kritam, which was the tiniest one. So the writer has almost used this to tell that Kritam was like a microscopic dot in the map of India. So, and its name was Kritam. But its size did not prevent its giving itself the grandiose name Kritam. Now, Kritam had a huge, magnificent, it was a magnificent meaning it had, children, Kritam, which meant in Tamil, coronet, that is the crown of a king. So, a small village, and that too the name being Coronet. The meaning of Kritam was coronet, that was the crown which adorns the head of or forehead of the kings. On the brow of this subcontinent, as if it was like a coronet or a crown on the brow, that is the forehead of our country, India. So it has a big, magnificent name, children, being the tiniest village, the smallest village. The village consisted of less than 30 houses. So, see how small the village was. It just consisted of less than 30 houses. Only one of them built with brick and cement. So, only one house which was there in the middle was built with brick and cement, and painted a brilliant yellow and blue all over, with gorgeous carvings of gods and gargoyles on its balustrade. So, they had only one house built with brick and cement, and it was painted a brilliant yellow. It was situated in the middle of the village, that house. That showed the prosperity of the house. The person who was living in that house was very prosperous, and he had enough wealth. Might be the main, like we have pradhan and all the in our villages, the same way this house belonged to a person who was very resourceful, rich and wealthy. That's why he had his house built of brick and cement. It was colored, brightly colored, children, with the yellow color and blue all over, with gorgeous carvings of gods and gargoyles. That is the semi-gods, children, gods and semi-gods on its balustrade. Balustrades are the pillars. At that time, these houses, children, they were almost supported. The roof was supported with the pillars all around the house, and those pillars had some or the other kind of gods, images of gods and goddesses. The carvings were there as if they are holding the roof of the house. They are, as a support, they are holding the roofs of the house. It was known as the big house, and people of the village, all together, the 30 houses, the people who were living, they called it as the big house. The other houses, distributed in 4 streets, were generally of bamboo, thatch, straw, mud, and other unspecified material. So other houses were simply made of mud, thatched roofs they had with straw, made of straw, and they were somewhat, they showed that they were, the people living in those houses had money, had wealth, but in a limited way. Muni's was the last house in the 4th street, beyond which stretched the fields. So Muni's house was at the last. That was the last house in the 4th street. And beyond it, children, the fields, we could find the fields, the agricultural farmlands might be, or simple barren lands, grasslands were there. So the fields started spreading. In this prosperous days, Muni had owned a flock of 40 sheep and goats, and sallied forth every morning, driving the flock to the highway a couple of miles away. And during his earlier times, children, when he was prosperous means he had enough money to survive. Everyday bread he had, and everything he had, whatever he wanted, he had. So he had owned a flock of 40 sheep and goats altogether, might be 15 goats, and rest of them were sheep. So altogether they were 40 sheep and goats, and he used to take them every morning, driving the flock to the highway a couple of miles away. So he kept on driving them to the highway, while there he would sit on the pedestal of a clay statue of a horse while his cattle grazed around. So you can see the horse in the screen, you can see, children, this way a horse was there on a pedestal on that highway, and he used to sit there on that pedestal, means an elevated part, you can say, and he used to sit there under the shadow of that clay statue of that horse, while his cattle, they used to graze around in the fields. He carried a crook at the end of a bamboo pole and snapped foliage from the avenue trees to feed his flock. Now he had a big bamboo pole, and in it he had a crook. Crook means a kind of a sharp instrument, children. It was binded on one of the ends of the bamboo pole, and he used to snap the leaves, the green leaves of the trees. In the roadside there were green trees, and from that he used to use that bamboo stick pole, and used to snap the trees, the leaves, and soft leaves his flock used to eat them, chew them. He also gathered fagots and dry sticks, and the sticks which were almost, children, fallen there, very dry sticks were fallen there. He used to bundle them and carry them home for fuel at sunset. And when it was sunset, he used to carry them as fuels to use to cook. His wife lit the domestic fire at dawn, boiled water in a mud pot, threw into it a handful of millet flour, added salt, and gave him his first nourishment for the day. So nowadays we people are using oats, children. The same way his wife, they had millets. Millet is also a coarse grain. And she used that millet. She boiled it, children, cooked it, added salt, and that was a boiled millet or cooked millet with salt. He would first nourishment, and they are very coarse grains, children, and they are very heavy for our stomach. And if you eat them like oats and all, we people nowadays we are sticking to oats early in the morning. In breakfast you can have oats, healthy food. So the same thing happens. It has fiber, lot of fiber, so it keeps your stomach to be full till the later part of the day, till evening. You can feel that you never feel hungry after that if you intake these boiled oats or millets. So he too also was using the same thing. When he started out, she would put in his hand a packed lunch. Once again, the same millet cooked into a little ball, which he could swallow with a raw onion at midday. So, the same millet, she used to shape it into a little ball, and she used to give him in a packet with a raw onion. And he used to eat it or swallow that ball type of millet with a raw onion at times when it was midday, when he was at work, that is, he was grazing his flock of sheep and goat. His fortunes had declined gradually. Now, children, he was like whatever he had earned, whatever he had got by selling the milk of the goat or selling some of the other things which it was there in his farmyard. So he gradually he started spending it, and he became old now. He can't work hard. From a flock of 40 which he drove into a pen at night, his stock had now come down to 2 goats which were tethered or to the trunk of a drumstick tree which grew in front of his hut, and from which occasionally Muni could shake down drumsticks. So now he gradually kept on selling his flock, his sheep and goats, children. One by one he sold each and every one, except only left with him were only 2 goats till now. Only 2 goats out of 40, all were sold either, or the goats were eaten, cooked and eaten, children. So he was left out with only 2 goats, and they were again tied to the trunk of a drumstick tree. You must be knowing drumstick, children, that is sajan. In Hindi we call it sajan, and those drumsticks are very good for the diabetic patients, children. They say if you go for cooking the drumsticks, you make vegetable stew out of drumstick. They are very good, they are very healthy, children. So it around that drumstick tree he used to tie his his goats, which grew in front of his hut, and from which occasionally Muni could shake down drumsticks. And whenever they had that tree had drumsticks, children, Muni could shake the drumstick and he could again collect them, and he used to give to his wife to make some tasty curry out of those drumsticks. This morning he got 6. He carried them in with a sense of triumph. Means he felt very victorious that yes, today I have got, other than millet balls and millet, that boiled millet, that tasteless millet with salt and onion, he will be getting a tasty, spicy this drumstick stew to eat, a vegetable. So he carried them victoriously as if he has got something very tasty dish. It will be made now by his wife. Although no one could say precisely who owned the tree, nobody could say that who had kept that tree, or who had sowed that tree there. It was his because he lived in its shadow. It was his because his house was there, and he was the one. When the tree grew up, he was the one, he was living under its shadow. His wife said, if you were content with the drumstick leaves alone, I could boil and salt some of you. So if his wife said, See now, a sarcastic comment, children. She is trying to tell that there is nothing else except water and salt in our house. Nothing to eat, nothing to season it with, no spice, nothing. So, if you were content with the drumstick leaves alone, I could boil and salt some for you. I'll boil it, no spice, nothing, only boiling and salting it with salt. That is to say, I have only salt with me, no spices, nothing. You have only 4 teeth in your jaw. Then he answered, "Oh, I'm tired of eating those leaves. I have a craving to chew the drumstick out of sauce, I tell you." So he said, "I am tired of eating those leaves, drumstick leaves, sajan ke patte. And I just want to tell you that I have a craving. I want to chew the drumstick out of sauce, spicy sauce. I want to chew it." So he said this, and then his wife said, "You have only 4 teeth in your jaw. Now you have grown old, you don't have even your teeth, but your craving is for big things, for big things. You are craving for big things. You have only 4 teeth. All right, get the stuff for the sauce. So better go and get the stuff for making the sauce, all the spices, everything, and I will prepare it for you. After all, next year you may not be alive to ask for anything. But first, get me all the stuff, including a measure of rice or millet, and I will satisfy your unholy craving. Our store is empty today. So, better go and bring something, because our store is altogether empty. I'll then go for satisfying your unholy craving, whatever you are craving now. Dal, chili, curry leaves, mustard, coriander, gingerly oil, and one large potato. So, nothing we have, you have to bring all these things. She just straight away told him that make a list and just go and bring this. Go out and get all this. He repeated the list after her in order not to miss any item, and walked off to the shop in the third street. So, he just went, took the list, and went to bring it, because he wanted to eat this your drumstick, the tasty drumstick with the sauce, children. So this much for today. We'll continue in our next lecture. Thank you, children.